when you and I take up this call and we talk about abortion, if we speak about it in church, we're told we're too political. If we speak about it in the political arena, we're told we're too religious. If we speak about it in the world of the media, it's too disturbing. In the world of business, it's too distracting. In the world of education, it's too controversial. In the streets, it's too disruptive. So abortion, if abortion is wrong, where do we go to say so? We go into the churches, we go into politics, into the media, into business, into education, and into the streets. Some churches haven't wanted to get involved in political hassles with the government, so they've been silent on abortion. They didn't want to get involved in hassles from the government. They didn't want to take the fight to the government. So now with the HHS mandate, the government took the fight to them. And when it comes to that mandate, we've got a simple message. We will obey God rather than men. As Alveda can tell us, her uncle said one day to the civil rights movement, we've got a lot of obstacles in our way, but we're not going to let anything turn us around. We're not going to let no dogs turn us around, no water hoses turn us around, no police clubs or jail sentences, and we're not going to let any injunctions turn us around. And so today I say to you, in the pro-life movement, no Planned Parenthood is going to turn us around. No biased media is going to turn us around. No HHS mandate is going to turn us around. No Obama administration is going to turn us around. We are marching for a certainty. And it's not only the certainty that we will arrive at the day of victory for the unborn, it is a certainty that the power which now dismembers them and crushes them and throws them in the garbage is a power which at its roots has already been defeated.
Well, I'll tell you, Father Frank, it's amazing that we're actually sharing the stage with you. When Jason and I were kids, we met you in 1988.
Yes.
You look the exact same. He's got the same hair, the same glasses, and the same outfit. In 1991, that was the height of abortion. It was 2,197 freestanding abortion clinics in America. Today, thanks to the work of Priests for Life and other organizations and Christians and Catholics joining hands and uniting for life, there are less than 600 freestanding abortion clinics in America.
Hello, I'm Janet Morana, Executive Director of Priests for Life. I also co-founded the Silent No More Awareness Campaign, the largest mobilization of women, men, and family members while hurt by abortion after getting healing speak about their regret. Well, I'm going to be taking questions in a few minutes, so if you want, keep sending in those questions. But first, today's a very special day. I can't believe it, but it was 8 years ago today. Nellie Gray, the founder of the March for Life, passed away. I was privileged to know Nellie Gray. I first met Nellie all the way back in 1990 when I attended my first March for Life. And it was Nellie Gray that in 2003, when Georgette Fournier and I founded Silent No More, she said that will be part of the March for Life. That's how it ends at the Supreme Court, with those women giving their testimonies about the regret. And it was Nellie who welcomed the campaign to be part of the March for Life. Well, today, 8 years ago, like I said, today Nellie left us, passed on. And just today, March for Life sent out a beautiful tribute to Nellie. And I'd like to share it with you right now. So let's take a look. And while we're watching this, send me your questions. I'll take questions right after the tribute to Nellie.
Our next guest did not want to be honored because, as she likes to say, we haven't won anything yet. We recognize her for continuing to organize and operate the largest civil rights event in the world.
Nellie said that you cannot allow a little bit of abortion any more than you can allow a little bit of murder.
She was a tireless advocate for the unborn child throughout her life. No compromise, no exceptions.
She's one who never wavered, was always loving, and showed great respect to every human being.
Nellie was a woman of faith and conviction who was called by God, and she responded to that call with wholehearted fidelity.
Nellie Gray was a warrior whose untiring efforts, even into her 80s, gives a blazing testimony of what God can do to a life fully committed to Him.
Nellie just was a truly principled woman and stuck to her principles, even if it meant great personal suffering in her life.
Nellie was a real Renaissance woman.
Nellie Gray and the March for Life were synonymous. She wouldn't stop. She wouldn't let go. Once she grabbed something, she would not let go.
No matter whom she addressed, young marchers in the crowd or presidents of the United States, Nellie's message was clear, unambiguous, empathetic, and profoundly pro-life.
Nellie was one tough cookie. We are so thankful for the legacy that she has left us in the National March for Life.
Nellie was really the person who saw the youth coming out in the pro-life movement. Nellie was the one who had us launch Twitter, launch Facebook.
She was the backbone that consistently kept the pro-life cause alive and vibrant.
Nellie Gray, she was another Susan B. Anthony. She really cared about the dignity of women.
You will never know how many children and people are here today because of her work.
There is no one in the pro-life movement who was more dedicated, who gave her whole life as Nellie Gray.
Nellie Gray reminded us all, every person has a right to life, and our goal needs to be to preserve and guard and protect that.
We are now closer to our goal, thanks in part to this great lady, Nellie Gray, our Joan of Arc of the Gospel of Life.
We pray today for the repose of the soul of Nellie. Please pray for us. Pray for us as we press forward, running forward, always forward for life.
Thank you, Nellie Gray, for being a no exception, no compromise champion for the life of the pre-born.
When we put this together, we thought there was going to be one march. Then we realized Congress wasn't going to help, and we better have a second march. And what I am saying to you is, we will be here until we overturn Roe versus Wade. And believe me, we are going to overturn Roe versus Wade.
And of course, I feel so privileged to have known Nellie all those years. And of course, her Vice President, Dee Becker, also. The two of them work hand in hand. And the March for Life does continue. And I'm hoping to see all of you in January. Hopefully, this pandemic will decrease enough that we can gather hundreds of thousands of us. Not like the media says a few hundred, but hundreds of thousands of us in Washington, D.C. I hope I'll see you all there. Okay, so let's look at our first question. Okay, comes from Teresa from Florida, and she writes, "Hi, Janet. How do you respond to women who say they will vote for Biden because of his running mate, Kamala Harris, and say it's time for a woman to be in the White House regardless of what she stands for?" Well, you know, this is that old adage of, oh yeah, I just want to see a woman be the vice president. Now back, I can remember, oh my gosh, many years ago, Geraldine Ferrara ran for vice president. There were a lot of women that voted for her too, even though she was absolutely pro-abortion. I myself, I'd love to see a woman president. I would love to see a woman vice president, but there is no way I'm going to go in and vote for any woman or man that is pro-abortion. I just cannot do that. You know why? Number one, every abortion destroys the life of an unborn child, but I know through the experience of the Silent No More Awareness campaign, it also damages the woman and the man, the mom and the dad. So there's no way. You know, I could always pray for a change of heart for these people, but I don't think that's going to happen anytime soon. So faced with this current election and faced with the party platforms that are going to be coming out, the Democratic Party has made it quite clear that they're in favor of abortion through all 9 months of pregnancy up to birth. And the Republican Party in their platform have a clear position of being pro-life and standing up for the unborn child. So unfortunately, you know, like we always say, if the party were to switch their position, our position doesn't change. And I would love to see the day back the way it used to be many years ago when both parties were pro-life. That's the goal, that we would all respect the life of the unborn children and we would all stand up for women. So therefore, no, I couldn't vote for Kamala Harris at all because of her stance on abortion. Okay, let's see the next question. This is from Carolyn Messina, and she says, "Thanks for all you do. How can crisis outreaches help with resentment and regret many suffering have from this tragedy?" What tragedy is she referring to? How many crisis outreaches help with resentment? Abortion? Well, first of all, if you're referring to crisis helping with an unexpected pregnancy, let's start there. Well, that's our pregnancy resource centers that by now, there are more pregnancy resource centers and abortion clinics all over this country. And so that's the answer. We're here to help any woman who is pregnant and in need, whether she needs medical attention, a place to live. There's maternity homes all over our country. A woman never has to feel that she has to choose between her situation and the life of her child. And we don't want to have to put her in that situation. So yes, there are resources available all over the country. All right. So I hope that answers your question, Carolyn. Next question is from Bob LaPlante. He says, "Janet, what is your take on the abortion stance the Biden-Harris that they and the Democrat," well, he says Nazi, communist, fascist, socialist, Marxist, one world party is taking? Oh my goodness. Yes. Okay. Unfortunately, what's happening in our country right now is that we're pretty split. And it's not just on the abortion issue. Yes, it's on the abortion issue. There's a wide divide between the Democratic Party and the Republican Party in their stance on abortion. And like I said, you can tell that by their party platforms, which, by the way, next week, the Democrats will be voting on cementing their party platform, and the following week, the Republicans. And then Priests for Life, we're going to put together a platform comparison on some key issues. And we want to offer that to you. Just go to orders@priestsforlife.org or prolifeproducts.org, I should say, our new online store, and you can place an order free of charge for the party comparison. But they've gone so off base, even on things like religious freedom, Senator Vice President Biden, when the Little Sisters and the victory in the Supreme Court against the HHS mandate imposed by Obama on not just the Little Sisters, but Priests for Life and every Catholic church all over the country. And that mandate was to force us to put abortion and contraception into our health coverage. And what the Trump administration did was they pushed back that mandate and said, no, it's a matter of conscience. These groups don't have to do that. Well, Biden already said that if he's elected president, he's going to reinforce the HHS mandate, which would now put all of us back into legal battles, back up to the Supreme Court again. So for us, the Catholic Church and all these other groups that were in the fight to begin with Obama, we would have to go back to that with Biden. So there's no way we want to vote for him because of that reason. All right, so it's abortion, it's the HH mandate, repeal of and forcing it back on us. It's religious freedom. And then it's taking our country into, like this gentleman was referring to, in a different direction. You know, our founding fathers founded a country where people were free to practice religion, any religion. That's what, freedom of religion, not from religion. That's what they meant. That there will be no mandated national religion, that everyone is free to come here and worship God the way they feel they want to, whatever denomination that might be. And the division, they want to take us into a socialist. They want to have universal health care, which if you don't believe that's not a disaster, talk to our friends up north in Canada who come across the border to get treatment here in the United States because they're on waiting lists up there for just some basic tests like MRIs and certain treatments. And so our Canadian friends who have socialized medicine, they come to the United States, save up their money and come here to get treated because they don't want to have to wait 6 months or a year for the kind of tests that we get automatically, very quickly. Maybe you wait a few days or a week to get scheduled for an MRI. In Canada, you might wait 6 months, 7 months, 10 months, who knows? So we don't want socialized medicine. And then to take our country to be what they call socialist. I see these young people on Facebook, and you know what they say? Oh, socialism, that sounds good. We want to be social. Ladies and gentlemen, that's not what socialism is. If you want to know what that can happen to our country, just look at Cuba, Venezuela, and those other countries. It was a disaster. And so therefore, there's a lot at stake in this election. It's kind of like, what direction do we want to see our country going in? So we got a lot of praying has to happen. All right, let's look at our next question. Ted Fratto writes, pride, greed, wrath, envy, lust, glutton, sloth. Do these words mean anything anymore in the Catholic faith? Which presidential candidate embodies these traits more? Well, first of all, I'm not here to judge. Second of all, we're not electing a saint. What we are electing is someone who's going to implement policies and procedures, etc., sign bills into law that will come onto their desk or veto them. That's what we're focusing on. So while neither candidate, maybe within their own practices morally, might have some of those sins in their background but that's not what we're judging here. We're judging when that candidate comes into office, he comes in with a whole thousands of people that he puts in place and the policies of that party. That's what we're looking at. I look at the kind of bills that they will either veto or sign into law. And we know if the Democrat Party takes over that they will, in fact, be putting things in place that will make abortion, like I said, all over the place. And they're going to do away with, if you want to talk about Kamala Harris there, she has already said that if she were, when she was running for president, when she was back in the debates, she already said that she would want to see laws passed that would undo every pro-life law passed in any state. That would be a disaster. So again, we're not here to elect saints. We're here to get the job done, protect unborn babies, their moms and dads, continue with having religious freedom, and keep that HH mandate far away from us. So let's see what our next question is. Okay. Any advice for parents about to send their children back to school? Send them to school. Yeah, I mean, You know, I had this conversation with, I just went last week up to visit my cardiologist up in Orlando for my checkup, and we were talking about this because I said, you know, I have grandchildren, you know, what would you say about going back to school? He said, Janet, for goodness sakes, let the children go back to school, and they should not wear masks all day long. When they're sitting at their desk, all right, they shouldn't have to wear a mask. Now, if they're going to get up and maybe go to the bathroom, go in the hallway to move them from point A to point B, you want to have them put on masks, that's fine. But to sit and do work at their desks, not necessary. The other thing he pointed out was that the children that have died, there were a few, not many, from COVID-19 had other medical conditions, other underlying conditions. So let's say your child has cystic fibrosis. Well, then maybe that child has to do at-home learning, distance learning, because of the risk factor. But if your child or grandchildren, like my grandchildren, are healthy, active in sports, take their vitamins every day, eat good food, nutrition, and they're doing all the hand washing and stuff, there's really no reason why at this point the children should not go back to school. In fact, it's going to be more frightening for them, I think, to have to distance learn. You know, what happened back in March and April was they already knew their teacher, they already knew their classmates, and now they suddenly had to distance learn. They got to look on Zoom and see their teacher and see their classmates, but they knew these people. Now we're setting up another whole scenario. Imagine how frightening it is for a little kindergarten, first grade child, first day of school. I always remember taking my own children first day of school, right? They're nervous, they're frightened, and now you can't even go and see your teacher because she's got a mask on. You can't look at your other classmates because they all have masks on. It's very frightening. And then for those that have to do distance learning, you don't know the teacher, you don't know the other students, you don't have any connection. Our children are just anxious to get back to socializing, to get back on the soccer field, and so on. And again, if your child has an underlying condition, then I can understand why you would not want to send them back to school. But perfectly healthy children, I say open the schools, proper sanitizing, common sense, because COVID-19 is eventually going to be like every other flu and every other thing we've had to deal with. We're getting it under control. The numbers are going down. Even in Florida, they're beginning to go down. And just like anything else, so as long as you're doing, you know, the social distancing and following the guidelines, I think we should be okay. But I think every parent at the end of the day has to make their own decision. Okay, they know what's best for their children. All right, another question. This says, what makes you qualified to determine when children wear masks in school? I'm not saying I'm qualified to say when children wear masks in school. What I said was, I have spoken to several doctors. Okay, listen to what I said. And they said that if a child is sitting at their desk, socially distanced from the next child, there's no reason why they can't remove that mask while they're doing their work, because they're not at any risk. The desks are the 6 feet apart and they're doing their schoolwork at their desks. I did say, if you listened, if they get up to go get something in the classroom or to go to the bathroom, that's when they need to put their mask back on. So I was not going on my opinion. I was going by what medical experts are saying about the use of masks and children in school. So I hope that answers that question. Next question. Okay, Lynn Basista Shine, and she says, why aren't more people speaking out about the fact that abortion is not a constitutional right? It was created by SCOTUS, okay, out of a penumbra of the First Amendment. The moment that the unborn child is deemed a legal person, the 14th Amendment will kick in and abortion will be unconstitutional. Lynn, great point. And you know, the fallacy that happens really is some people still say abortion is the law of the land. And like Lynn just pointed out, it was no such law. It was a decision by the Supreme Court. And, you know, yeah, if the 14th Amendment should give the unborn right, and we would think that would be case closed, but we're not at that point yet. And that's why this election is going to be so important, because President Trump gave us 2 Supreme Court justices that are conservative And now, chances are in the next 4 years, we're going to have at least one or two more Supreme Court judges to appoint. So therefore, this election is going to be very important into what direction our court is going to go in addition to abortion, but on all the other things that are going to come before the court, including cases on religious freedom and so on. So I hope that answers your question. Okay, well, there is another point I'd like to make. If you've been watching the news in the past 48-hour cycle with Kamala Harris being appointed as the vice presidential pick by Biden, I just want to bring you back to a little thing that happened. In 2016, if you remember, we had David Daleiden released those undercover videos showing that Planned Parenthood was selling baby body parts for experimentation and all kinds of things. And it was all over, as you remember, the news, that. Well, Kamala Harris at the time, she was the Attorney General for the state of California. And what she did was she ordered a raid on Daleiden's apartment and seized all kinds of tapes and equipment. And believe it or not, some of those that case against Daleiden is still going on in the courts today. He's still battling it all 4 years later. Here's the irony. At the time she was Attorney General and ordered that to happen, she was also running for the United States Senate because Barbara Boxer had just retired, a senator from California. But she was also seen at fundraisers with Planned Parenthood. And she was also receiving money for her campaign from Planned Parenthood. So as Attorney General, maybe she should have been investigating the sale of baby body parts that Planned Parenthood was doing. No, not she. Instead, she had this raid on Daleiden's apartment, which was a pure conflict of interest. So it's just another thing to point out there. And, Planned Parenthood, basically everyone thinks they're such a great organization. Planned Parenthood, that sounds such like a good phrase, Planned Parenthood. They're the largest abortion provider here in our country, and there's International Planned Parenthood, who is the largest abortion provider all over the world. And what I'd like to say is I'm going to show you a little item we have at our prolifeproducts.org store. And this was designed by Brian Kemper of our youth outreach. I'm going to hold it up so you can see it. Let God plan Parenthood. Now that's my phrase there. Instead of Planned Parenthood, let God plan Parenthood. So if you'd like to get one of those t-shirts, just go to prolifeproducts.org and we can get the proper message out there. Instead of Planned Parenthood, we want God to plan Parenthood. Well, I hope you enjoyed our time together today. And again, remember, say a prayer for Nellie Gray. By the way, she was Catholic. And I know she would appreciate if anyone wants to have a mass said for Nellie, the repose of the soul of Nellie Gray. And of course, pray for her today on the anniversary of her death. And when you think about it, what one person could do, and look at the change that was created in our country by one woman saying, I'm not going to tolerate abortion being legal in this country. We're going to stand up and do something. And I'm sure back in 1974, when Nellie organized that first march, she had no idea that it would grow to what it is today. It is the largest pro-life event, I think, in the whole world. There's not a March for Life. And by the way, Marches for Life have spread because of Nellie all over the world. I've been to the March for Life Canada. They have March for Life in Belgium and Australia. I mean, the list goes on of all the different countries. Rome, I actually spoke to the March for Life in Rome. One woman, look what she has created, raising awareness. And one thing about Nellie, no compromise. There was never an abortion that she would agree to. No compromise, Nellie. That's what she was. So on this day that Nellie left us, passed on 8 years ago, let us remember Nellie Gray. And let us all do everything we can to bring an end to abortion. And thanks for joining us today. And tune in again next time. Every Thursday, I'm here with Just Ask Janet. So thanks and God bless.